start with the program. You can continue with your talk. So at 5 o'clock we can stop 1 hour exactly.
Okay.
People are to join, but most of the people they are not able to join WebEx, so they will be watching YouTube live session as it go on.
ಹೌದಾ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವೆರಿ ಫ್ಯೂ ಪೀಪಲ್ ವಿಲ್ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ದಿ ವೆಬ್ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ.
Yes.
Okay.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ WebEx ಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ very few people, but many people will join in the YouTube. ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಲೈವ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನಾನು ಚಾಟ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಸರ್. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಯಾರಾದ್ರು ಕಳ್ಸೋದಿದ್ರೆ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಕಳಿಸಿ.
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ವಾಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಹೇಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ವಾಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಹೇಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದೆ.
ಹಲೋ. As a host, I can see people are watching, how many people and what time they joined, everything I can control.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will not know how many people are listening anta alva?
Yeah. Because you are a presenter, that's why I am the host. If you are a host, then you can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a WebEx settings. We can't do anything.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Another 2-3 minutes, sir, we'll start the session.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Post me ಅಂತಾನೆ ಇದೆ, ನಂಗೆ ಬಂದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ post.
ಆಯ್ತಾಗ ಶೋರಾ
ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಲೀವ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ನೀವು ನೋಡ್ತಿರೋದು ಹೇಳಿ. This is about wildlife. You are interested. ವನ್ಯಜೀವಿ ಮೃಗಗಳ ಸರ್.
ಹೇಳಿ.
Yes, sir. Sir, please share this one PPT, sir.
ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಲ್ಲ.
ಇಲ್ಲ. ಆಯ್ತಾ?
ಓಕೆನಾ?
Sir, ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, share ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ PPT. You have to re-share it. So by the time you share your PPT, I'll introduce you to the audience, sir. It's around 4 o'clock.
ಓಕೆ. ಅಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ. ಓಕೆ, ಸರಿ.
Yeah, full screen.
ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಉಂಟು ಈಗ?
Yes, sir. ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಇಲ್ಲ ಬೈರೋರು ಮಗ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅಂತ ಸಹ ಚೂರು ಬೈರೋರು ಮಗೆ 10 minutes of prompt. Yeah. So shall we start, sir?
Okay.
Yeah. Good evening, one and all. I am Anthony from KSTA Karnataka Science and Technology Academy. On behalf of our President, Dr. S. Ayappan, and our CEO, Dr. A.M. Ramesh, I would like to invite all of you to this lecture session on how many tigers can we have in India, a scientist view from Dr. Samba Kumar, PhD. He will be delivering his talk on this note. So welcome you, sir, Samba Kumar.
Thank you.
Yeah. A brief note about you, sir, to the audience to know how you are and the professional career of you, sir. I'll be introducing you to the panelist and the other members of the WebEx talk. So, Dr. Samba Kumar specializes in developing field protocols for surviving large mammals in Asian forest, and his research focuses on entangling complex factors that shape distribution and abundance of large mammals. He has authored 2 books and more than 85 scientific articles, technical reports and books, chapters, etc. etc. Samba Kumar has taught field survey techniques for monitoring large mammal populations to a large number of wildlife enthusiasts that include forest department, field protection staff, aspiring wildlife biologists, and amateur naturalists. He has conducted more than 100 field training workshops over past 25 years and inspired generations of volunteers to pursue wildlife research and conservation. As an honorary director with the Wildlife Preservation Group, WILPEG, a non-governmental organization, Samba Kumar has conducted more than 100 nature camps and wildlife education awareness programs to students, teachers, rural youth, urban naturalists prior to pursuing his career in wildlife biology. He received his graduate degree in management from University of Mysore, postgraduate degree in ecology from Pondicherry University, and PhD from the Manipal University. He was conferred with the prestigious Carl Zeiss Wildlife Conservation Award in the year 2010 in recognition of his outstanding services. A certificate of merit in 2006 by New York-based Wildlife Conservation Society, and several awards and honors from local and regional association. With this brief note, I invite Dr. Samba Kumar to deliver his talk on how many tigers can we have in India, a scientist view. So thank you very much for everyone for joining this session and welcome you, sir. Please, I welcome you to deliver your talk.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony. ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ. KSTಯ ಸಿದ್ದೇಗೌಡರು ಕೆಲವು ವಾರಗಳ ಹಿಂದೆ ನನ್ನ ಸಂಪರ್ಕಿಸಿ ಈ ಥರ ನಾವು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಟ್ಯಾಲೆಂಟ್ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ತರಹೇವಾರಿ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ರಿಂದ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಶಾಲೆಗಳಿಂದ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಸೀರೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ತಾವು ತಮ್ಮ ಸಂಶೋಧನೆ ಅಧ್ಯಯನದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಪರಿಚಯ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು. I thought it's a very good opportunity to talk to you all on 2 important counts. One, very few people think that wildlife biology or wildlife conservation is actually a science. It's indeed a science. It's no more a sort of a hobby or an activity that people can pursue because of the conditions because of the deteriorating conditions of nature and environment and all the living beings in it. this has assumed critical importance. I thought, that I will introduce you all about the science of counting tigers in India. And one very particular question that lots of people have is about the number of tigers. Many of you may be aware of the number of tigers that are declared once in 4 years by Government of India. They do surveys, they come up with an estimate of numbers, and some of you may also know that recently there was a celebration wherein the number of tigers have increased in the country from around 1,400 to roughly about 3,000 or so. So we have doubled the number of tigers. Then many people ask, is this all the number of tigers that we can have? Or with the kind of pressures that the forests in India are facing today, how many tigers can actually be supported by the existing forests in India? This is a very interesting question. There have been lots of debate about that. I thought that, I will bring some information about these questions that are there in the many minds by relying upon 3 decades of research work that we have done, in the recent past. I was primarily, a scientist in ISRO because of my interest in wildlife. I changed my career and then, I pursued wildlife research way back, in early 1990s. And over the past 3 decades, we have worked extensively on tigers for a non-governmental organization called Center for Wildlife Studies. This organization is founded by Dr. Ullas Karanth, who was the founder director and who was the principal scientist starting his research on tigers in India way back in mid 80s. So I thought, that we will put together the experiences and in the process describe to you how actually tigers are counted and its prey species are counted. What is the current status? And potentially, if we do the right things, how many tigers actually our forest can support in India? Before I start with the science behind counting tigers, I thought I will give you a very brief overview of, the status of tigers in the world today. As you can see, tigers earlier, were distributed most of Asia. But today what you see, tigers are there only in 1.6 million square kilometers of forest in different forest types. In India, they are found in Western Ghats, Central Indian forest, and the lower Himalayan Terai region, that's what we call, in Sundarbans here, and in Southeast Asia. Even though, the tigers are distributed in 1.6 million square kilometers, When you compare this with the historical range, we have tigers only in 7% of its historic range, which means in 93% of the earlier area, we have lost tigers. And tigers, as I said, we are found in a variety of forest types. It could be temperate forest or mangrove forest, evergreen forest, deciduous forest, and even very fertile alluvial grasslands. And these forests are there both outside the protected area network as well as inside the protected area network. And within this vast area, the breeding tiger populations are there only in less than 1% of the habitat. When I say breeding population, it is the population of tigers which are reproducing. Okay. Now, why there is so much focus on tigers? Very briefly, tigers, as many of you know, is a top predator, is at the apex of food chain. So by conserving tigers and in their original habitat, we will also be conserving a host of co-predators. That it can be leopard, wild dogs or dhole, sloth bear. Not only that, by conserving tigers, we also conserve a whole range of species. Elephants, spotted deer, sambar, gaur, barking deer, muntjac. All these large herbivorous mammals are also conserved in the process. Not only that, there are a myriad of other species which get conserved in the process. In that sense, tigers is an umbrella species. So by conserving tigers and their habitat, you are conserving a wide variety of biodiversity forms. Now, so much of efforts are there both globally and locally at the national level and the regional level and the local level to save tigers by both government agencies and non-government agencies. Now, in a country like India, where we have nearly 1.3 to 1.4 billion humans, do we really have room for tigers? With the kind of stories that we are hearing about loss of forests and all that, is there really any future for tigers in our country? To answer this question, that I would like to tell you that, that currently we have about 300,000 square kilometers of forest which are remaining in forest. Within this vast tiger habitat, about 5% of the forests are protected under the Wildlife Protection Act, either in the form of national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, or tiger reserves. If you look at the past distributions, once upon a time, historically, India was covered with one type of the forest or the other. It can be scrub forest or deciduous forest, evergreen forest, temperate forest. So the different forest type, but one type of the other was covered, in our country. But today, if you see, what we see, these green blotches are the forests that are remaining. These are all like tiny islands within a sea of human population. If you take a much closer look, even within this large patch of forests, whatever is remaining, these forests are further fragmented. The dark green are the protected areas, and the light green are unprotected forests. So you can see how the forests are fragmented at a regional scale. When you further zoom in and try to look at a particular protected area, for example, here, if you look at Anshi Dandeli or Kali Tiger Reserve, all these red blotches are human settlements. So even within this large area, the forests are further fragmented and they're honeycombed with these human enclosures. So within such a thing is what we have tigers. So what are the problems or what are the pressures that the tigers are facing? As you know, just want to list down, some of the pressures that all of you know. It is organized poaching or poaching for subsistence, hunting and poaching of tigers' food, which is deers and pigs and sambas, forest fire, developmental projects like mining, the extraction of forest produces like this Garcinia fruits or amla or this BD leaves or tendu leaves. And then, extraction of wood for fuel wood purposes, timber logging, cattle grazing. So there's a whole lots of pressures on these remaining forests. In addition to that, the so-called green energy projects, microhydels, windmills, they are also deteriorating the habitat quality. And these highways and railway lanes not only fragment the habitat, but they are also death knells for the animals which are moving around. And the latest in these pressures is the tourism. You can hardly see a tiger amidst so many people who are trying to watch them. So these are all the kinds of pressures that are really faced by tigers in the today's world. Does this mean that all we will be left out with only be stone sculptures or religious symbols, icons of tigers? We may not be able to really have any tigers in the future. Do you think so? Or you think, tigers will remain as a cultural icon in the form of tiger dances or even, as an entertainment tools? Well, to answer this question, let's look at some of the basic biology of the tiger. So what I'm going to describe now is about the kind of research work that was done in the past 30 years in the Western Ghats forests of Karnataka. So this project, was led by Dr. Ullas Karanth. He started his work way back in 1986. And then a team of scientists under his guidance, we worked, in these different patches of forests. So we call this as Malnour tiger landscape. This is roughly about, 35,000 square kilometers of forest with a few protected areas, Nagarole, Bandipur, some of you may have heard about them, Biligiri Ranga Hills, Kudiremuch, Badra, Kali Tiger Reserve, Ranchi Dandeli. So we have a network of these wildlife sanctuaries. And also they are connected by a bit of unprotected forest. So we started our work in Nagarhole and progressively moved to other protected areas and also covered this entire large landscape to understand tigers, how they are distributed, what are the numbers of tigers in these different protected areas, what are the factors that that drive these tiger populations, and what can be done to improve the tiger population. So now I will just run through a series of slides which gives you an idea about the kind of research work that's undertaken in this landscape. So one of the first elements of the work that was done is to understand the relationship between prey and predator. When I say prey, it's large herbivorous animals. Predators are tigers, leopards, and wild dogs. So to first understand the basic element of this relationship, you need to basically walk hundreds of kilometers in the forest looking for scats, that is the droppings of tigers, leopards, and wild dogs. And these are all very good source of information. By examining this, you understand what is the prey that has been eaten by the predators, tiger, leopards, and wild dogs. And we also look for kills made by these predators, examine them, examine their condition, and that will give us an information on what type of prey is being taken by different predators. As you can see in this slide, more than 490 tiger droppings or the scats were collected from tiger, 535 from leopard, and 304 from wild dogs. And the number of kills, close to some 330 kills were all examined. And what we found out was that tigers take larger prey animals, whereas leopard and dhole, they predate on smaller and medium-sized prey. When I say larger prey, it includes anything about 250 kilos like sambars and gaurs. Medium-sized prey is spotted deer and wild pig. Small prey is barking deer, which is about 20 to 30 kilos. The another element, is to actually find out tigers are territorial animals, but how much of area that each tiger, a male or female, covers? What is its territory? What is its home range size? For that, you need to actually collar individual animals through a technique called radio telemetry. It's an old shikar technique, but which is modified for the research purposes. So what you do is that you locate a kill or you put a bait which gets killed by the, let's say, tiger, and then you cover it with a with the help of a team. You basically cover it through a white flannel of cloth, and then at the end of the funneling type, the wildlife biologist sits there, and when the tiger walks, then they dot the tiger and a collar is put so that you are able to follow the tiger using the signals transmitted by these collars. So when you do that over day and night, continuously over a relatively large period of time, you will know what is the area covered by these individuals, by males, females, and juvenile tigers. So this study again was done in Nagarole by Dr. Ulas Karant, and he found out that a female tiger home range or territory is roughly about 15 to 20 square kilometers, and that of the male can range between 25 to 60 square kilometers depending on their social status. For example, the juvenile tigers have larger home range sizes like 50 to 60 square kilometers. And once they establish their territory, it will be about some 30 to 40 square kilometers. And each male tiger roughly covers 2 to 3 female tigers area. So this was the first study of tigers that was done in India using telemetry in Nagarole. Now, by following these tigers, you also get to know about how frequently they hunt and other social organization characteristics. So what we learned from these studies is that the tiger roughly hunts once a week. So it roughly needs about 50 deer-sized animals per year. And these 50 deer-sized animals come from a base population of about 500 animals, which means roughly 10% of this prey of the larger animals is taken by them to survive. Now, just to give you an idea of how important is this findings from this study, the scientists who were studying tigers in Siberian forests found out that the average territory of a female tiger in Siberian forest is roughly 200 to 250 square kilometers, and that of a male tiger is almost 600 to 800 or 1000 square kilometers. So see the difference. So there, the Siberian forests are snow-clad mountains with sparse vegetation, with lower number of prey animals. So this study established that, that with lower number of prey animals, the tiger territory is much larger, and if the prey is abundant, then it is possible to have more number of tigers. So the question comes, that how do we estimate the number of prey animals in a forest? How do we really count prey animals? How do we really count the tiger food that are available? It is done through a technique called line transact surveys. A line transact is a small trail that is actually, made in the forest, a sort of a straight line, wherein two observers walk along this line, they look for animals, and they note down the number of animals that they see. And in addition to that, they also make a record on the distance between the observers and the animals, and also the compass bearing between the transact line and the animals that they have sighted. So this piece of information gives you information on the perpendicular distance between the animals and the transact that is being surveyed. Why this is required? It's simply because that that when you count animals, there is a basic problem. Because of the forest vegetation, when you cannot see all the animals all the time, you will only see a portion of the animals which are out there. And from that proportion of animals that you see, you have to estimate the total number of animals. It is not possible to do a total count of animals out there in the forest. So you need to use a sampling technique that enables you to estimate what is the proportion of animals that you have cited in your survey. This is called the detection probability or the sighting probability. And once you have this piece of information, it is possible to estimate how many number of animals that you have not seen. And with that piece of information, you can estimate the total number of animals that are there per unit area, say per square kilometers. So we did this survey, in a number of protected areas. These blocks that you see are the transacts. A number of transacts, are placed in these, and these transacts are walked, once in the morning and once in the evening. So these surveys are typically done in about 2 to 4 weeks of time, and we collect the number of sightings, for each walk, and use this information to estimate reliably the number of animals that are there per unit area. So this gives you a very clear information about the population density of prey species: cheetal, sambar, gaur, wild pig, barking deer, and such other species, which are the prey species for tigers. This is just a table to give you an idea of kind of efforts that they go in to estimate the number of animals. Like, between 1986 and 2016, every year you walk and you cover the area, and about 500 to 900 square kilometers on an annual basis. You cover these distances, you walk these distances to obtain the number of sightings. And with that, you estimate how many number of animals are there. And in addition to that, there are advanced methods which help you not only find out how many animals are there in a given area, say Nagarhole or Bandipur, but it can also find out where they are more, where they are less, and why they are more here and why they are less here. Means, what are all the habitat factors that can influence these animal densities? It can be the vegetation, or it can be pressures that are, uh, because of the pressures, the animals numbers may be low in some areas. So there are a number of factors, whether habitat factors or management factors or human disturbance factors. So you can examine which factors are actually driving these animal population densities. So this advanced technique is called hierarchical distance sampling or line transact sampling. So by using the same line transact survey data, you will also know how the variation in animal densities in a given area are there, and how this variation is shaped by different factors. Okay, now how do we really count the number of tigers? Earlier, the method that was used was pugmark technique, wherein people look at the signs or the pugmarks of the tigers and try to estimate the numbers. And in the early years, in 1980s, actually, Dr. Ullas Karanth found out that it's a very error-prone method. You cannot really estimate the number of tigers accurately from this method. And then he was the principal scientist who invented this camera trap technique. Tigers have stripe patterns, as you know. These stripe patterns are unique to each individual. They are like your fingerprints. Like there are no two humans on earth who have the same type of fingerprints. Each person's fingerprints are different. It's just like that. Each tiger has a different striping pattern. Even right and left side of the tiger patterns are differ. So, if by some means, if you are able to get a picture of the stripe patterns or a picture of the tiger, then you can compare the stripe pattern and say whether it is the same tiger or a different tiger. So this camera trap survey technique, uses this advantage. Like two automated cameras are placed on tiger trails where the tigers travel. So these are actually determined after extensive initial surveys to see, where tigers frequently move or where, they are moving, because as these tigers are territorial animals, they cover their area, they move a lot. So you pick these trails and place these automated cameras on the tiger path. This is an infrared operated camera. So whenever an object passes through this, it cuts the infrared beam and triggers the camera, and automatically camera fires and take a picture of the animal that is crossing. And because there are two cameras which are placed on either side of the tiger travel route, so you get two pictures, one of the right flank and the other from the other camera, you get a left flank. So once you get a picture of a tiger crossing, the camera trap, then you have two pictures giving you the right and left flanks. And let's say you have done this survey for 30 years. And let's say you have different locations in which you have deployed camera trap. Like let's say in Nagarhole, you have placed camera traps in 100 locations. And you have done this camera trap survey over, let's say 30 to 50 days. Then you end up with a number of pictures every time that the tiger travels and crosses the camera traps. So you compare these pictures and you will find out how many number of tigers are there. There is one trick again. It's not that every tiger which is there in the forest, you will be able to get them in camera traps. So again, here you have to use a sampling technique to find out what is the proportion of tigers that have appeared in your camera traps, and what is the proportion of tigers that have been missed in the camera traps. So with this piece of information, you can actually find out the total number of tigers in a given area. This sampling technique is called capture recapture method. So Using camera traps and using the capture recapture technique, you can estimate fairly accurately and reliably how many tigers are there in a given area. Again, to give you an idea about the kind of sampling efforts that go into these exercises in different, for example, here you see Nagarole, Badra, Bandipur, Anshidon, Delhi, Biligiri, Rankana Hills, Kaveri, and Kudrema. Every year if you do these camera trap surveys, you get the number of pictures, the number of tiger captures, and you are able to identify the number of individual tigers. Now, when you are able to repeatedly do it over a period of time, you are also able to gather other information. But another important finding that we did through this camera trap surveys is to establish the relationship between the number of tigers in an area and the number of prey animals that are there in a given area. So we found out when we did this survey in a number of national parks in India, we clearly saw this relationship that tiger density is positively influenced by the prey densities. So higher the prey, the larger the number of tigers that you have. And as I said, when you are able to do it over a period of time, other pieces of information will also get. Additionally, using some of the advanced methodologies, just like I explained to you in the line transact methodology, in the camera trap surveys also, using some advanced analytical techniques, you can find out where there are more tigers and where there are less tigers. Means you are able to see the variation in tiger numbers or tiger density over a large area. And you can also find out why they are more here, why they are less here. Is it because here prey is also high? Or are there any other things? So such kind of information you will be able to gather through this scientific technique. So when you are doing camera traps over time, very interesting information will come. For example, these are all tigers are secretive venomous. You don't know how long they live, how far they move, what are the main causes of their mortality. All these pieces of information, you will be able to resolve over a period of time. An example here you see here, NHT 132, when each tiger is coded. It was first caught in 1996, and then we tracked the tiger over time till its death. So we found it died, in 2009, and you are able to see, what has caused this mortality. Not only that, you can actually compare, the stripe pattern from the sea skins, and you can identify from where it has come. If let's say you are covering, all the major national parks and sanctuaries, so you will have a database of tigers, and you will be able to identify the source of poaching. So you will be able to reliably identify where this tiger was there, no matter where the tiger skin was seized. So it's very useful for conservation as well. Then tiger movements, how far do they move? See, look at this dispersal distance. There was one tiger which was caught, which was photo captured in Bandipur. We found out, that there was a cattle kill in a village near Shumaga called Gama, and we found out that it has actually traversed 280 kilometers. So this kind of information, for the first time, we were able to gather the scientific evidence on the movement that is made by these tigers. Another tiger had cubs. We had seen the mother with cubs, in Badra, in Lakwali forest. And a couple of years later, one of the male cub had dispersed and had settled down in Anshi Dandeli Tiger Reserve. It has covered nearly 200 kilometers of distance, and it had gone settled there for, after a couple of years. So this type of movements or dispersal distance, you will be, is a very useful information that you get. Not only that, it also tells you, that even with this existing forest cover, you will be able to ensure this tiger dispersal, or, where if you are able to do such monitoring over a long time. And we also get to know about these mortalities over time. What are all the causes? Is it natural or poaching related, or because of some problems, either cattle killing, you know, villages will complain, then the government people will go there and will remove these problem animals, from that. So all these kinds of information you will be able to gather. So these two techniques, when they give you the information on, like the line transact survey will give you the information about the population density of prey animals. The camera trap survey will give you the information about the number of tigers in a given area. Then when you do it over time, you will also gather information about their survival rates, recruitment, and such other useful information. But if you want to find out in a large area like in Western Ghats in Karnataka, over 35,000 square kilometers, what proportion of this large habitat is actually occupied by tigers, you will use a technique called occupancy survey technique. So in this occupancy survey technique, each square that you see is roughly 188 square kilometers, less than 200 square kilometers. In this, you walk and you collect information based on the tiger signs that you see, either pug marks or scats. So you know, walk in each one of these cells and get information on the signs that you have found. And using this information, you can actually find out what percentage of area is actually occupied by tigers. So these are all the three important methods, that will tell you about not only what is the area covered by tigers, when it comes to a large landscape level, but also what are the number of tigers at the scale of, or at the level of, a park or a sanctuary. So just to give you an idea, so our surveys, over these years clearly said that out of 38,350 square kilometers of land in our Malnour landscape, about 20,000 plus square kilometers we had tiger habitat where tigers can potentially be there. And within that 21,000 square kilometers, roughly 14,000 square kilometers of area was occupied by tigers. And the number of tigers in these things, we found out that overall in the Malnour, we have close to 400 tigers. And when you compare, with the number of tigers that we had way back in 1970, let's say 50 years before, you could see clearly, there is an increase in number of tigers because of certain very positive conservation interventions that have been done. So to get to the question of how many tigers we can actually have, so if you take a close look at the quality of the forest habitat, the area that is occupied by tigers, and the numbers that are currently there, and through the number of tigers that we have actually seen in very good areas where the prey animals are abundant, we actually estimate that if we do the right things over the large landscape, there is scope to have nearly 1,300 tigers in our Malnour landscape. And if you actually do an analysis over the entire country, given that this is the remaining forested habitat that are there of different forest types, evergreen forest, moist deciduous forest, and scrubs or dry deciduous forest, again by applying the potential carrying capacity of these tigers, we actually estimate that it is possible to actually have nearly 10,000 tigers in these remaining forest. But to do that, you have to do a series of positive conservation actions like protection, removing the human impact pressures, and improving the habitat quality so that there is abundant prey animals are there. This is just a very brief overview of the kind of work that is done over the past 3 decades to give you an idea that how with proper scientific efforts you can actually estimate the number of tigers and the kind of conservation actions that are needed to increase their numbers. I hope you have found this talk interesting and useful. Thank you. If you have got any questions, I will be happy to answer. Hello? Hello?
Hello, sir. Anthony. Anthony here.
Hello?
Hello, sir. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Sir, I would like to thank you for the wide range of knowledge on tigers, especially the scientific way of finding them, how they are traveling around 200 kilometer plus uh, from time to time, and how people who are interested with the tiger research, are they interested in tracking those tigers, what they are doing, how their life is getting more tracked by the scientific way of research in through different techniques. You have shown nearly 4 to 5 different techniques, how you people are tracking them, and how a tiger is going through the over the years. What are the ways it will find to survive itself, and also conserving tigers through that, how other species or mammals are getting preserved. This is one of the important tasks that nature, it will be done. 1 second, sir. I'll just hold on. Just a minute, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry for interrupt.
No problem. Yeah.
So that was a wonderful topic that I heard from you, sir. Thank you very much. I thank on behalf of KSTA, Karnataka Science and Technology Academy, and on behalf of our officials, S. Ayappan, the chairman, and CEO AM Ramesh, under whose guidance this program was mapped and gone through the roadmap, and then it was come under action under the program coordinator, Mr. Siddegowda. So I am very thankful to all of those people who has given us chance to listen such a knowledgeing persons through this as we wrap up this day. So
Okay. Thank you.
coming to the end of the session, once again I thank you, Dr. Samba Kumar, for providing his knowledge as we wrap up today in this late evening. I'm very thankful to you, sir. Thank you once again. And I thank
Thank
S. Ayappan sir, CEO AM Ramesh, and all our official scientific officers and Office of Technical Assistance, Mr. Siddegowda also. So thank you one and all for joining this event. We had roughly around 30 members who were listening to this talk in the WebEx, and around 25 to 30 people in the YouTube. So thanks to you, all of you, those who have joined for today's talk. I'm grateful to you people. Please do join our next talent search program also. We will be sending you the links shortly. Thank you very much, and thanks once again. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. I just thought, that I will also tell you about Mr. Siddegowda asked me to give 2 questions, for some of the
Yeah. Please do
students.
give 2 questions, sir.
Yeah. So I would like the students to make a note of the 2 questions, and send the answers to KSTA. The first question: describe the scientific method used to estimate population of prey animals. I repeat, the first question is: describe the scientific method used to estimate population of prey animals. The second question is: what is the home range size or territory of an adult female and adult male tiger in Nagarhole? And how different are they when compared with Siberian tigers, and why this difference is there? I repeat the second question. What is the home range size or territory of an adult female and adult male tigers in Nagarhole? How different are they when compared with Siberian tigers? When I say how different is the home range size between Nagarhole and Siberia, and why this difference in home range size is there? These are all the 2 questions. Happy answering, and thank you very much.
Yeah, the 2 questions that Dr. Samba Kumar has asked here is already put up in the talent search group. Students may go there and answer the questions. So as we get the answer, we will forward it to Dr. Samba Kumar, and the right answer will be given an prize. Okay. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. Thanks one and all. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.